Do you want to work in sports? Then you came to the right place. Women Changing the Game is bringing you an inside look at what it takes to be a leader in this industry as we hear from the top leaders across all fields. We're helping you girl boss your way through game day. Changing the game near you. Brought to you by Sports Girls Club. I'm your host, MaryKate Siegel, and this is Women Changing the Game. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Women Changing the Game. I am here with a very special woman changing the game in sports today. She has been part of many firsts in her career, including founding Teamwork Online, the first recruiting company to focus on sports executive recruiting. And she was also the first female agent at IMG, which is amazing as well. Thank you for joining us, Buffy Filippell.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So excited. We just had a wonderful trip from the airport. Took a little bit. Buffy got a little tour of Boston, but it was really fun. You know, you're getting a little tour, right?
It was
fun.
outstanding.
Yeah.
The field hockey girls. Right?
Yes, and Buffy played field hockey as well, and so did I. Delaney did as well, so it's fun to bond over field hockey. But yeah, awesome to have you here. How are you doing? Why are you here again? Tell us why you're here.
So, SFIA is hosting a regional conference of all of its sporting goods companies here on the Babson campus.
Awesome.
And then during this session, we are having a career fair for mostly Babson students and a few of the employers that are going to be here at the SFIA. And then I invited a few other Babson alumni who are in some of the other sports marketing areas of Boston.
Amazing, yes. So we're here on Babson College campus right now. Awesome to be here, and that's so cool what you're doing. I think everything you're doing with Teamwork Online is amazing, so we'll definitely get into Teamwork Online. But first, I want to talk about being IMG's first female agent. I think that's most important to get started with. We will jump into teamwork, but let's talk about being the first female IMG agent. What was that like, and how did you even, become the first female agent? What was your journey of getting started?
So I was working for Wilson Sporting Goods, and I was responsible for the junior tennis players. The one of the best junior tennis players at the time was Tracy Austin. And I was stationed over in London, and I was responsible for actually walking her around to her various tournaments. Her mother had said, could you please walk around? I think she might have been 14 years of age at the time.
Wow. And
would you make sure that her hair was done right and her tennis dress was appropriate and all of that. Yeah. And because of that, she was going to be turning pro pretty soon. IMG was over there, and they ended up saying to me, they ended up actually offering me the job when I was in London, and said, would you come work for us because we want to try to get Tracy Austin? Yeah. And I said, well, that's wonderful. The only problem is I think Tracy Austin is already signing with another agent.
Oh, wow.
So if you're interested in hiring me, I can't deliver her. Well, give us a chance. I said, certainly we could get a chance, but I don't think that we could hire her. But I said, however, I do know Andrea Yeager, who is another young player that was coming up at the time, and I know some of these other junior tennis players. I was familiar with John McEnroe, who you've seen on the U.S. Open telecast, along with Tracy Austin. And so I know a few of those others, and they said, great, we're going to hire you anyway. And so they offered me a job. I think it was probably something like $17,000. And I said, I think I'm making $18,000. And they said, well, everyone who joins IMG has to take a pay cut.
Wow.
Oh, really? And then I said, by the way, how do I get back from London to Cleveland, Ohio? Oh, you're going to have your previous company pay that. Really? It's $800 for me to get back. And they said, yep, you're going to have Wilson Sporting Goods pay you. I think I must have eaten it myself. I don't know. But then I moved to Cleveland, and I had been in these offices before. I had actually listened to some tape or watched some tape of the World Couples Championships that TWI, one of the divisions, the television division of IMG, was filming, and I was responsible for figuring out how many minutes Wilson Sporting Goods logo was on. And I sat through these shows and more shows and more shows, and I was taking my stopwatch and trying how many minutes this was, and then we were going to pay them per minute. How many per minute? And it said, here's your bill. And I said, let me go see whether that is my bill or not. And so I sat there, and so I'd been in these beautiful offices, and I thought, this would be really nice to work here. This would be great. So I ended up getting hired, and I thought, this is wonderful. I've been in their offices. I think it's fabulous. And then they put me right next to the head of the tennis division, Bob Kane. So amazing. And then you look around, and all of the women were secretaries.
Oh, yeah.
And all of the men had the offices. And when I got there, there was a guy in my office, and Bob walks in and he says, Randy, this is Buffy. She's going to take your office. So would you move out of here?
How did that go?
Well, I like a little bit odd, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Randy's picking up all of his stuff and he's moving out. Does Randy
outside of the door?
Randy
like,
know
I'm
coming? Yeah. I mean, he did, but it was a little strange. And then I had a secretary then outside my door. So, and one of the secretaries that I had, administrative assistant, was Sandy Janelius. She is at Amherst College right now, or I think in her final year if she's still there. But she was, she hadn't finished college. Mm-hmm. She had just gone out of worked for a radio station, and she learned how to do PR with me. We were running events all over, and I was having her write press releases and things. Sandy went on to become head of communications for CBS News and CBS Sports.
Good for her. And good for you for kind of helping her
amazing.
Get there. Yeah.
And Sony, and I mean, it was just this amazing career of this gal. So.
And that's women working together right there to get to the top.
I was pleased. Yeah. Here she'd been writing press releases with me, and then all of a sudden, you get right to the top of the heap in the sports business.
So getting to that place that you got to, and even taking somebody's office and going in there, I'm sure some challenges came with that, right? So what were those challenges? Maybe even if you remember a specific one where you're like, that was hard. And then how did you get through that? How did you overcome it to, kind of have that confidence to be in the position that you were in?
Well, I think, first of all, is that you're with a bunch of guys, right? And that's not unusual. We all have brothers, and I had an older brother that I adore. I have an older brother, Bob. And so you get along with the guys, but they would go out together, and I wouldn't go out with them. I wasn't invited to their parties. I would hang around with the women. So my best friend there was actually the executive assistant to the head of the tennis division, Bonnie. Bonnie and I were always together, and here I was really working with her. She was right outside my door as well, and which is a little strange when you think about it, is that I had the office and she had a desk, and yet she was the administrative assistant to the boss of the tennis division, and we were best buddies. So that was different. The other thing that was really different is pay. So they would come around and they would talk to you about your pay. And I would find out that somebody was making maybe twice as much money than I was.
Was it that the males were getting paid more?
Well, this one guy, I just knew this one guy was getting paid more money. And he's about my age. As a matter of fact, we went to high school together. Mm-hmm. And I found out he was making a little bit more money. And I said, how come I'm not? I'm making this amount of money. How come I'm not making more? Right. You're not the head of the household.
Wow.
And I said, wow. I didn't know that Chuck was in charge of his household. It was a very strange comment
That is extremely strange.
You're not the head of the household.
And imagine saying that today now even too.
Oh,
and I
know.
hope that nobody has to deal with that today too. Now, did you have because I feel like you have like great confidence already in the stories you're telling. Like I feel like you already were asking the right questions. Did you have the confidence to kind of put your foot in and say, hey, I should.
No.
Yeah, it's tough.
No.
Yeah.
No, one of my, the stress of IMG, there's a book out right now called Rainmaker that's written by Hugh Norton.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the story of really the time that I was there at IMG when he was working with Tiger Woods and he was working with Greg Norman and some of these other golfers, and he was developing the golf division. I was actually 2 doors down from him while this was all going on. The stress of the office, as much as you were the best in the world, the stress of the office was immense. And Mark McCormick was a stickler for paying for things. If you look online, the Mark McCormick papers out of the University of Massachusetts, there's some memos that he has written, public memos, and you can see all of these public memos out there. There's one that's written from me, or one written to me, and it was from his administrative assistant. And the story is, Buffy, why did you send this courier package to New York for $16 when you could have sent it 2 days for 5 cents? Why? Please explain why you approved that bill. Wow. He was so intent on every single payment.
Right down to the dime.
So just to give you an example of as much as it was amazing to work there, and the entrepreneurialness and the intelligence of everybody and the deal making, and it's so surprising, is I remember that I had a bill from a public relations firm for one of the events we were running, and I thought that the bill would not pass Mr. McCormick. And I was really upset. I was so upset, I threw the phone receiver at the phone and I cracked the phone.
Oh my God.
Everyone knew that this was, it's very intense. We were making deals. We were working with celebrities. It was constant. How much money have you made for these people?
Seems
How much
like
money? Pressure. And I just remember and people heard this, and I had to walk out of the office and walk around downtown Cleveland. But it does tell you at the time, and if you read this book, you can get a sense of how incredible, wonderful it was, but how intense the work environment.
Yeah. And you need to have like a lot of passion for that then, because if you're in that intense environment, you gotta love it and you gotta like really want to be doing it to have that pressure around you every day. Were there ever moments where you're like, why am I doing this? This is too much. Did you have those moments?
Everybody has those moments where you think, I just can't take this anymore.
I think that's the sports world in general too.
But I could tell you that I was traveling so much and I was going to resorts to run all these events for our older tennis players, the tennis legends, the Rod Laver, the Ken Rosewall, John Newcomb, and we were running these all over the country. And I got to know what resort had the best towels and what resorts had the best Sunday brunch. That was, I could tell you what hotels around the country had those two things because I had gone to almost every one of them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's honestly kind of cool though, that you can look back and be like, yep, I went to all those resorts and I know all of this. That's like the fun side to it, right?
That's the fun side. I got a chance to play with Ken Rosewall. I'm shocked. I mean, the guy is like a backboard. I couldn't believe I'm standing on the court, being able to play with one of these players.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, pinch yourself to say, yes, with all the stress and the pressure, you also get to do some things that are pretty amazing.
So those are those moments where you have to look back and sit back and say, okay, I get to do this, so maybe I can take the pressure because, I'm getting these great moments out of it.
So my parents loved what I was doing. This is the other thing, is that your parents then tell all their friends, you know my daughter knows this person and this person. So you're getting all these kudos from your parents and you're tolerating this. I would get on to airplanes and I'd bring tennis rackets for all these players that I was working with. And people would whisper, they would think, oh, she has to be a pro because she's bringing all these tennis rackets.
That's awesome.
Who is she? Who is she? Sometimes I would actually say a name. I was who I'm not, right? Oh, she must be.
I was going to ask if you went along with it.
Oh, I would go along with this, yeah, and just kind of pretend I was somebody else. You do get a sense, though, when you're working with celebrities, you almost get pulled into what it's like to be a celebrity, and you really don't want to be a celebrity. But you can play it, and it, as I said, it plays well with your parents. But when you get out of it, it actually, which is why getting out of being an agent was just a breath of fresh air. I could actually deal with real people from now on.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have those experiences and learn from them and grow, and then also sit back on those moments and think about the really cool things that came out of it as well. Yes. And I feel like you just grow from those situations too. So
it was absolutely amazing. Yeah. Mr. McCormick was a incredible human being, and I mean, all that he did to really start athlete representation instead of entertainment representation, but really turning athletes into these entertainers. He was phenomenal. And I feel like many a time I have been able to be with some incredible human beings, with David Stern being one of them, and then just recently another gentleman, Jim Morris, just passed away. I mean, when I was young, I would have never thought I would have been been anywhere near these people who have made a massive difference in so many people's lives, and to get a chance to just sort of spend some moments of time with them is really surprising.
And so now that's you. So now you're one of those people who have, changed people's lives in the sports industry. And I know all of our listeners for Women Changing the Game are just, they go to Teamwork Online every day or hitting the refresh button. We love Teamwork Online. I love it. I told you in the car on the way here, I've gotten hired from jobs off Teamwork Online. That's my go-to, source. I think the most reliable source for getting a job in the sports industry. And I know all the listeners of Women Changing the Game and Sports Girls Club as well love it too. So we really, on behalf of everyone, thank you for starting that. So I want to talk about that journey. How did you get started with Teamwork Online? Maybe that first moment where it popped up into your head and you said, I think I want to, start Teamwork. How did that come about?
One is that I was looking for a job. Yeah. So I had come back, my husband and I had moved back from Italy. This was after we got married, and the second time I'd been overseas, because I was with Wilson first, and then I moved back, and then I moved back with my husband into Italy. And we're coming back, and it's 1984, which is important to note because that was when we won. We had the Los Angeles Olympics, the first sports Olympics that was not government funded. It was done by corporate sponsorships. And so I came back in 1984 and I was looking for a job. How do you look for a job when you have been with the biggest sports management firm? And I'm saying, I'm not sure I really want to go back. There's something else to do. And so what I did is I tried to find out, how do other people get a job at 30 years of age? And they do it through executive recruiters, and they called this thing search, executive search. What is that? And I met with some folks about executive search, and one of my high school buddies, his dad was with Russell Reynolds, and he said there's a company called Korn Ferry that did a search for the Los Angeles Olympics that got Peter Ueberroth in. And they're this fly-by-night is what his kind of comment was, which was because they were a competitor. Yeah. And they like to do sports, so why don't you talk to them? And I did. I talked to them, and I got hired to work at Korn Ferry. And what was odd about it is when I got hired, I said, oh, by the way, I can't really start full-time. I'm coaching swimming over at the high school. So, and we have swim practice until about 2:00. So I'll be, or I have to leave at 2:00. So I'll have to go off on my swim practice. Could you imagine? These are big corporate guys. And
that's that confidence I was talking about.
What was I going to do? I had this job that was paying $30,000 or something, but I had to do my swimming, which was only paying me $1,200 for weeks and weeks and weeks of assistant coaching. So it was an odd way to start. And then,
but it is, not to interrupt, but that's a good example
Yeah.
of to just, tell maybe somebody's having a problem with telling their boss, hey, I have to do something, here's my timeline, or even starting a new job, like I can start at this date, and being firm in it. I think it's important to have that confidence to be firm in.
Yeah, to even get that job, I wrote to Dick Ferry, and it's Corn Ferry. I wrote to him and said I could do your sports practice, because he had just done this search for Peter Uberoth Man of the Year. And I said, well, maybe they'll do a sports practice. Now, I've had no experience in doing recruiting. I don't have any HR background. I have this agent sales background. And so I wrote to him and said that I'd like to start this. I gave him all my press clippings. We had to put this in the mail. And I called up his office, and Mr. Ferry has your information. Thank you very much. And you click the phone. And then I get a letter in the mail that says, thank you very much for your information. If we have any interest in you, we'll give you a call. No. That's not what I thought was the way to do this. And so I call his secretary back. And I said, hi, this is Buffy Filippell. I was the agent from IMG, and I just sent Mr. Ferry all this information. I got this ding letter from the Cleveland office. And I said, could you imagine? How did I have the guts to do this? And I said, if Mr. Ferry doesn't want me to work at Corn Ferry, I'd like him to write the letter.
Wow, you really said that? That's amazing.
You're kidding. I mean, where does this? My mother actually was a little bit more like this. So
yeah. I love the confidence.
Well, I think it's the naivety, right? You just didn't know that you were not really supposed to say that, but you just did. Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, let's have it. Well, then I got the call from the Cleveland office, and they said, I guess I better interview you. And
wow.
And
so it worked out.
It worked out. And then Dick Ferry came into the office here. Fortunately, I was there because I wasn't going off in my swim practice. So Dick Ferry walks into the office, and he walks down to mine. Couldn't believe he comes back to my office. So anyway,
wow.
Yeah,
that's it. So what advice do you have for younger girls who want to get a job, and maybe, somebody's denying them or saying, not giving them the time? What is your advice to have that confidence to keep pushing through, or, maybe to take a different route? What advice would you give them?
I probably the best advice, first of all, is probably after my dad's death, is I felt that time is of the essence. Mm-hmm. And I think that the more that we feel time is of the essence, and it really is. I've been with all these people that have had wonderful lives, and some of them have passed away now. And just think of it think that I better get it as soon as I possibly can, because I don't know whether it's going to be there. I think you've all heard you've got to fake it a little bit to be able to get in there. Just get that enthusiasm up, get some confidence up there. What's the worst is that they say no. Okay, you've got to go through a ton of no's, and those of anybody that's very successful has had a lot of no's, and a lot of heartbreak, and a lot of tears, and a lot of, oh, I wish I didn't. I should have changed this, or I should have done that.
Same.
Yes, and so the advice is to have that confidence. The other thing is to use the opportunities when you're with people. You should never say, when somebody says, how are you? This is an interesting piece. When somebody says, how are you? Don't say fine. Mm-hmm. That's the end of the conversation. They're asking you to share something. So you share something of what you've learned, what you've gone through, people you've met, whatever. And then you turn the question back to them and say, and how are you? And then it creates this conversation and a relationship. So don't say, fine, I'm fine. Create the relationship by asking one more question or digging right in there one more time, sharing your enthusiasm of your life. This might be the last moment, or it's really just to be able to find out what that other person is doing by sharing some of yours. And I think that also your vulnerability is a strength.
Mm-hmm.
Don't consider it a weakness. Because when you are vulnerable, you can bring people close to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they're going to overtake you if you are aware of, I'm being open to be caring about this person. Women are fantastic at caring about people.
Yes.
And they should use that as a strength
Mm-hmm.
instead of being careful because it doesn't show strength.
Yeah.
You're actually going to take these vulnerable men and women and have better relationships with them.
Yeah, and build a community. And I think that's awesome you said that. I think that everybody should just be themselves and it'll draw the right people to you. And you talked a lot about, saying, how are you? And not saying fine. I think that's networking, right? Is talking. And you do really good with networking. You're at all of these events, especially, and promoting Teamwork Online and talking with these younger women and men in the industry who want to get into sports. And I think you do a really good job at showing everybody this is how you network. So what are some of your favorite networking events that you've been to that you just remember being a great time and through Teamwork Online?
Well, we had one in Orlando. So I've written a couple of ones on my LinkedIn page. One was in Orlando. When I went, I'd gone to Orlando and I'd gotten a cookie that said something about thanks, that you're going to receive some. What is this? I wanted something a little bit more grandiose. And I then get over to this event and they end up saying, I introduced myself to the fella that was bringing me into the facility. And he said, I went to Indiana University and I want to thank you so much for everything. Okay, that's good. Thank you for being here. Yeah. And it happened then everywhere that I was going in that facility that people were saying thanks. And I had to say thanks, right? Thank you for doing this. And thank you for being here. And then a fellow was down there was showing me the way. And he said, oh, by the way, I got my job on Teamwork Online. And thank you very much. And the comment that I made after all of this was, everybody likes to be thanked. Yeah. Everybody, even the employers, like to be thanked. Yes. And that is just such a welcoming thing. Just thank you. Yes. So this article was just about how wonderful this whole thing about just thanking people was. Another one that we were at was the Tampa Bay Rays, where the building, the ceiling just went off. We had fun. The fella there was in charge of fun. His vice president of fun, I think.
That was his actual title.
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but he is funny, and he makes everything fun in that facility. Awesome. Yeah. And I just felt like the whole event was fun. There was a man that was dressed up in gold. He was, like a mime, and he looked like a baseball player. It was just fun. So these events can be terrific to go to, and people have a great time at them. And I'm just kind of noticing what are the themes that are coming out of these lately, and those are two out of Florida that I just remember mostly.
Well, they do seem fun.
Well, they are. They're just great to go to.
And that's networking. You can go to networking events and you can work in a sense, right? But also have fun and meet these people who are alike and wanting to go for the same goals that you are, and just enjoy yourself.
Well, I'm also noticing. So we'll have panels, and we had the panel discussion. This is another Florida event that we had. We had a panel discussion. And there was a young gal that was there, and she was speaking about her job. There were 3 of them there, and they all started in data analytics. And this is at the Miami Dolphins. And there were some young girls that were sitting in the stands, and they said, I talked to them afterwards. I said, what'd you think of the panel? And one of the gals said, I can see myself as Jay-Z. I want to be her. And I thought, that's the best thing. If we can have you meet an employer, not that you want to work for a logo, but that you want to be someone else. And I thought Jay-Z was amazing. I was filming some of the things that she was saying. Oh, who is this person? She should be a vice president. And the fact that these young women would be saying, wow, I want to grow up and be like her.
Yeah.
That to me was a thrill, and that's what we're doing, is we're introducing you to people to say, I want to be like this person, and I want to get to know them, and I want to follow in their footsteps. That to me is special about these events.
It really is special, and you've done a great job at helping push other girls and women and men in general forward in the sports industry. So I want to ask you, though, since we are Women Changing the Game, all about women working in sports, what does it mean to you to be a woman in sports? In your own
Every
yeah, this is, you get so much good information. I love this.
Good.
Okay, so restarting. So you've done so much for the sports community in general, and since we are Women Changing the Game, helping other girls and women out in the sports industry, I want to ask you specifically, what does it mean in your own words to be a woman in sports?
I don't think I've ever thought a whole lot. I recognize my gender is a little different from the guys. I go into a different bathroom, they go other one. And so obviously whatever I've done, because there are more women at IMG since I left, which was great. And women have gone on to do some tremendous things at IMG. I feel that women have a lot of talent that they don't recognize, that can be highly successful. We talked about this in the car, is that empathy, the feeling of community, and coupled with our athletic background, is that we've learned to be competitive and to be playing with the boys. We can play with the boys, but we're also bringing into this business a lot of caring about people and pausing and thinking about a different point of view. So there are many studies that are there that are talking about how women are, in some sense, better leaders than men. And I think that I'm pleased to be able to see that I obviously haven't made that many mistakes, so that there are others that have come behind me.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that there are more women presidents at NBA teams, NFL teams, Major League Baseball teams. This was just not done until after sort of social justice and the pandemic. Now we're getting our time, and I'm thrilled with the talent that I'm seeing, and thrilled with the talent from the girls club. It's amazing women that I see at these conferences, and I'm thrilled. This makes me feel like, wow, I can rest assured it's going to go to a whole lot better group of people, and you guys are just killing it and doing a wonderful job, which is why I'm thrilled to be able to do this podcast with you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it so much. You've led the way for us, for sure. I mean, I can speak on everyone, on behalf of all of our followers, everyone a part of the Girls Club. You have just been you're a superstar in our eyes, so you're literally a rock star. So
thank you. But all of you are doing such a tremendous job.
Yeah.
I am so thrilled. The talent that is here, and the talent that I've seen at the conferences, the talent that I've seen in any of these Zoom calls, absolutely, it's like you have just hit a nerve with everybody, and then everyone is blossoming. You guys are doing a wonderful job, and I couldn't be happier to be a part of the Girls Club. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome talking with you, and I love getting to know you a little bit more on the other side of things too. So
thank you, MaryKate.
Thanks, Buffy.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time on Women Changing the Game.